Now, more and more plastic is floating through our seas. The artificial material is made to last, and parts of plastic can frequently be found in the guts of animals. But these are only the bigger chunks. So-called microplastics are almost invisible, and they too might end up in animals' bodies and even in their bloodstreams. Our reporter Nicole Ris talked to a Portsmouth scientist to find out more.
They're almost invisible to the naked eye, but yet they can have a big impact on the environment once they're released into our seas. Microplastics and especially microbeads have been under the spotlight for quite a while now. A small percentage of them can be found in cosmetic products, but an even bigger percentage are made up from synthetic materials that have been broken down into smaller bits and pieces over decades, but they hardly disappear.
The plastics have been mass-produced and in use since the 50s, 60s, and every year there's more and more produced. The rate's increasing, faster and faster. How much is produced? About 300 million tonnes now annually, globally. But 25% roughly of that is lost as litter, basically, either intentionally or accidentally. And because plastic doesn't break down properly, it photodegrades, i.e. that means sunlight breaks it down a little bit. But all that happens, it doesn't break down in its component elements, which is natural things do, they biodegrade. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces. And they get so tiny, eventually they're mixed in the sediments, you can't even see the smallest particles. The plastic from 70 years ago is still there now. There was I think it was 202, an albatross found with a piece of plastic with a serial number from a World War II plane that was shot down in the 50s. So if we stop putting plastic into the environment tomorrow, probably for 70, 80 years at least, there would be an increase in plastic particles, because all the existing things that are there are just breaking down into smaller and smaller pieces, but never disappearing.
It's long been known that animals ingest larger parts of plastics, which then fill up their stomachs, though they're too full to eat proper food. But almost invisible microplastics might even enter the bloodstream and then be passed down the food chain, as Paul Farrell found out while studying the transfer of these minuscule particles from mussels to crabs.
I was more interested in the effect of the particles that you can't see, that are also in the environment, you can't see without using microscopes. And if they're small enough, I found that by feeding a range of sizes, once you get below a certain size, those particles are small enough to enter in the bloodstream of the animal, which means, for a human perspective, or passing up the food chain perspective, we don't often eat the animals whole, so animals with particles in their stomachs, fish for instance, with plastic in their stomachs, isn't necessarily a problem. Once they pass through the gut into the organism, in the tissues of the organism, then those are immediately passed along the food chain quite easily.
So far, the exact effect on organisms' health when microplastics have entered the bloodstream is still unknown.
It's been shown that by ingesting very small particles that can enter past the gut into the bloodstream and tissues of an animal, that does have an effect. It instigates an immune response against these foreign objects, so the organism tries to remove them from its bloodstream like it does any foreign particle. It will have an effect on the health, but I think you need to do longer term studies to determine exactly how dangerous it is.
Nicole Ris for That's Solent.